Hello and welcome to another episode of Big Brother After Snark. I'm your happy host, KC, and joining us from live streaming locations and such and the whatnot. Once again, streaming live from our Rocky Mountain headquarters. Hello, Lacey.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Nice and dry.
Nice and dry. Oh, good for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Huge week to talk about. So let's hit the rewind button and go back. And where did we last leave everybody? I don't even remember who was nominated.
Yeah, Meg and Julia.
Meg and Julia?
Meg and Julia on the block.
That's right. And we were talking about how smart it would be for the...
Ambulance.
Oh, I thought it was your pet wolf. Okay, so we were talking about how smart it would be to evict Julia from the house, and the house guests chose to instead evict Meg.
Yes, and as things turned out, that was the smart move for J-Mac and Steve.
Explain to me your line of thinking there.
Here's my line of thinking. Vanessa and Oz twins all wanted Meg out. They evict Julia. J-Mac and Steve become public enemy number one. Liz went on to get HOH, which she would have gotten.
Nobody can predict that. Right.
Well, Meg wasn't going to win that.
I get that, but again, nobody can predict that. Like, that, yes, ultimately would have been the worst case scenario had they evicted Julia. But it was, what, a 1 in 7 chance or a 1 in 6 chance that Liz would win.
But that's what happened. And also, ultimately, I can see it from their perspective where they're really sitting, with this few people in the house, they're sitting about as pretty as they could be because they didn't tick everybody in the house off, and if Liz would have won HOH because the only difference would have been that Meg would have been in it instead of Julia, and Meg would not have beat her at that, and Steve and Johnny Mac would have gone on the block, and one of them would have been gone, probably Steve.
You don't know that James wouldn't have gone. Because Liz didn't want James around. And then you got to remember, Liz, if Julia was gone, that would be one vote that they didn't have in the house anymore either.
If they had evicted Julia, it would have been 100% on Steve and Johnny Mac that Julia was evicted. That automatically makes Steve and Johnny Mac public enemy number one for Oz twins.
Yeah, but even still, that doesn't mean
she's going after.
That doesn't mean. There still would have been the possibility. There's still a veto to be played, which albeit getting ahead of ourselves, Austin ended up winning that. But you don't know how hard he would have been trying if Liz is the HOH. He really doesn't have. Or no, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm mixing up. There's been so many competitions since last show. I'm mixing up competitions. Anyway, I can't entirely disagree with what you're saying as far as Johnny Mac and Steve are in a great position right now. I'm just not so sure I'm willing to admit that they wouldn't have been in a great position had they got Julia out of the house.
It was very frustrating to watch Julia sit on the block and survive, especially at this point in time. That was the most frustrating episode in Big Brother history.
It was awful.
The double evictions this season have been nothing but double disappointments. The double evictions have been hideous. So yes, it was bad watching Meg leave and watching James tiptoe out right behind her. It was a horrible episode.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, before we moved on, during just a second. During the live episode on Thursday, I was in what will remain an undisclosed location, which happened to be a location where I did not have the ability to watch the show. But what I did have access to was Twitter. So I typed in hashtag BB17 on Twitter, and I'm just refreshing like this fast. And you swipe down to refresh. So yeah, refresh. And I happened to be with another person who's a huge Big Brother fan, and he and I are both sitting there just staring at the phone, just refresh, and screaming at it every time something new popped up. So I mean, we literally spent an hour doing that, and just every time a new little bit of news, which was every time an individual voted or whatever, every time it would come across, and we're just screaming at the phone. So even not watching it live, but just watching people talk about it live was like the most frustrating thing I've ever done in my life.
And you just admitted that publicly.
Yes.
That's hardcore.
I know.
So, yeah, it was very frustrating episode. So, Meg leaves, and then Liz wins HOH, which I found that scene, the scene of Liz and Julia becoming the final two in the HOH comp, I found extremely amusing, because Liz was trying to throw it to Julia. I haven't heard anyone talking about this in the house or otherwise.
Oh,
but it was quite obvious that she was trying to throw it. And she was getting every answer wrong because she was thinking she was giving the wrong answer, but she was giving the right answer. And Julia was just standing with a confused look on her face, just doing a crapshoot every time. And they just, whether it be right or wrong, they were giving the same answer every time. It was a fun scene to watch, and I loved it that Liz wound up winning when it was down to those two, because best case scenario for them is she is able to throw it to Julia, and then she can compete next time around.
Right.
So it worked out really well for those of us who would rather see the Oz twins broken up.
Right. It didn't really hit me. I knew something. I could tell something wasn't right with Liz. And it didn't really dawn on me that, yeah, she had to have been trying to throw it to Julia, that's kind of hilarious. I'm glad you pointed that out. But yeah, she ended up winning anyway, and my good buddy James ended up going up on the block, and he ended up going home.
So what did you think when James and Johnny Mac were on the block together? What did you think was going to happen?
Honestly, obviously, first of all, I was hoping that one of them was going to win the veto, and I hoped Steve. Yeah. I hoped Steve or Vanessa was going to end up going home. Didn't happen, and
the veto was terrible.
It was a strange competition to have at that time. Like, they do that type of competition.
It was really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, they do that type, once or twice a year. But I don't know if I've ever seen that style of competition in that moment. It was an odd choice.
So I was not sure who was going to go, and when Austin went in and voted for James to go, I was actually a little shocked. The best case for Ostwins was sending Johnny Mac out, and they totally played Vanessa's game when they sent James out. And I haven't been a big James fan. James has a huge fan base. It's a total toss-up at this point between him and Johnny Mac for America's favorite.
I think Johnny Mac has the edge there, but yeah.
I hope so. He's my favorite. But I was ecstatic. That was the one little light in the episode that I was really glad that Johnny Mac wound up staying.
Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, of the two, Johnny Mac has always been my favorite, just by a smidge, over James. So, of the two, that was the order of business that I guess I would have chosen. So
then we had
would you
another
quit playing those records?
Event. What record?
I don't know. I heard you playing some sort of record in the background.
Oh, rubbing my hand on my knee. Is that making a sound?
I thought I heard a violin.
Oh! No, there's a guitar in the other room. Sorry.
It sounded like a violin.
Okay, that's odd. So
I'm not a
Steve
musician.
Winning HOH was awesome.
That was perfect. Like, for any possibility...
Fun.
of any scenario, yeah, that was like the most perfect scenario for an HOH, and it was fun.
Yeah. It was fun watching Johnny Mac throw it to him, and that was a very smart move on Johnny Mac's part.
Yes.
Also, the fact that Johnny Mac stayed in the house is a credit to his game because he had laid great groundwork in the week leading up to that, making Austin comfortable, teaming up with Vanessa.
Right.
He is unconventionally playing a great game.
He's better at this game than I think most people, probably even including myself, gave him credit for. No doubt.
Yeah. So then Steve puts up Liz and Austin. I mean, the choices are so limited now.
Yeah.
He had to finally take a swing at them.
Yes.
And any comments on that?
Well, did you not love him calling Austin out when Austin was trying to sit there and handshake, guilt him into not putting him up, and he called him out by saying, hey, you already had this same deal with me that I wasn't going on the block, and you went back on it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't shake on it. I thought that was hilarious. And the other thing,
they're in the stage of the game where I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing that I thought was hilarious was I kind of want to mash together the two scenes of, I think it was either Liz or Julia. I think it was Liz. Talking about what a horrible person Steve is and all of the time they spent over these last couple days making him feel like he's not a socially awkward nerd. But then on the other hand, putting in the whole Siegfried and Roy. Sigmund and Freud. Didn't he got bit by a lion? And yeah, that if you could just mesh those two clips together of how they tried to help that poor deer feel like he wasn't so socially awkward, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved that scene and how Liz came in to back her up, like she was talking about Sigmund and Freud who got bitten by a lion. Yeah, it was Sigmund and Freud.
And Austin sitting there just going...
like, he was sitting like... I was there like, Siegfried and Roy. They would go, oh!
Steve is so awkward.
Steve asked Johnny Mac if he had thrown the HOH to him, and when Johnny Mac admitted that, yeah, I kind of did, he started saying, you're America's player, aren't you? And then, you know what Johnny Mac, did you hear Johnny Mac's response?
No.
He said, okay, I am America's player. Now, if I was America's player, I wouldn't have been able to say that to you.
That's pretty brilliant.
So smart!
But I've long wondered why, and I don't think I've ever said it to you, I've wondered why nobody thinks that he's some kind of America's player or plant. Like, I would think the voice is faked, I would think the occupation is faked, and the weird things he does, like volunteering like 7 times to go on the block as a pawn, and yeah, sure, I'll throw this comp, yeah, I'll throw that comp, just whatever you want me to do, just all of it. I would be convinced that there's something more to Johnny Mac than what I was being told if I was in the house. I'm surprised it took that long for anybody to actually ask the question.
There actually was talk of this much earlier in the game, and then it just
really?
became overshadowed and overtaken by the twin twist.
Oh, okay.
And they just kind of forgot about it, brushed it off. But there was earlier in the game talk of that. And now Steve, he's still thinking that Johnny Mac is America's player, but what he has said to the cameras is, I think he's America's player, but I don't really care. So...
Well, and that's pretty much about the only attitude you can have about it, I mean, honestly, if he's America's player... You'd be better off to just sort of keep playing right along with him, because that's going to do nothing more than maybe help you out.
Yeah.
If you are Steve.
So Liz and Austin went up, and then are we talking about POV?
Let's talk about POV. YES.
So Austin won the POV.
Yes.
And then there was a big fight.
Now I missed the fight. I've been mostly out and about the last week, and I've missed a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So why don't you tell me about the fight?
So when Austin won, apparently he was celebrating, ripping his shirt off, doing victory dances, thumping his chest. It was making a huge deal out of it. And so Liz and Julia were just really mad and upset. They were doing their whole bratty entitled thing. And Liz basically broke up with Austin, and she was telling Liz, he's just not the one. This is not meant to be. Oh my gosh. And Liz and Julia just took to their bed. And Julia threw all Austin's clothes across the room. And so they had a fight. You could see clips of the fight on YouTube. And Austin went in and he was like telling Liz, what do you expect? What do you want from me? I ruined my life for you. You ruined your life for me? Oh my gosh. He said, I had a steady girlfriend. I broke up with my girlfriend. I'd given up my game for you. What? Oh my gosh. You said that your relationship was already on the rocks. Oh my gosh. Then he's like, well it was, but still. So awkward. He made them dinner. Heart-shaped chicken. I think you saw that.
No.
On the episode.
No, that wasn't on Sunday.
Yes, it was.
He made dinner for who?
Steve delivering. Austin made dinner for the twins, and Steve delivered it to them, and it was heart-shaped chicken breast.
No.
You missed the scene.
I must have. I'll have to go back and watch it again. I saw none of this. This was on Sunday?
It was, you know how when you have like a full chicken breast, there's like the little chicken tender and the chicken breast, so it kind of looks like a lopsided heart.
Right.
So he like boiled or fried it like that. It was really pale in like that heart shape with these overcooked vegetables. It looked disgusting. Anyway.
Okay.
They wound up making up. They're back together again. And Vanessa actually helped a lot in smoothing it over, which was her actually doing good social gaming.
Well, now wait a minute.
She went back and forth.
This was all after the POV?
Yes.
We haven't seen the POV yet.
That's so true. I'm sorry, I must have just seen it on YouTube clips.
Yeah, you saw it on YouTube clips. So hopefully it'll all be on the episode tonight. I was like, this is how busy I've been. I just watched the Sunday's episode this morning, which is Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it's like so fresh in my mind. I'm like, how did I miss the heart-shaped chicken?
Sorry. Good point. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It was such a well-edited scene. I thought, okay, I obviously saw it as somebody clipped a live feed.
Well, you're used to watching things on YouTube that I have edited.
Yeah, or me, jeez. So, Austin wins POV, obviously uses it on himself, and Julia goes up. So now Liz and Julia are on the block. So the first thing that's happening is Liz starts telling Julia and everybody else, I want Julia to stay. I've always gotten better than Julia in life. This is Julia's time to shine. Julia's a smaller target, so she'll make it farther. I want Julia to stay. Liz and Vanessa obviously were both fighting for I want Julia to stay. Austin, of course, wants Liz to stay. Right. And Steve and Johnny Mac are happy with sending Liz out the door because she's the better competitor. Suddenly, yesterday, this all flipped.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. It all flipped yesterday. This was on I Read a Daily recap.
Right.
And this morning's recap. So as of 4 o'clock this morning, everyone's plan is to evict Julia.
That is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Even Steve and Johnny Mac talking to just each other. They're like, yeah, we'll do what they want. Vanessa has made a deal with Liz and Austin, a 3-part deal. If she keeps Liz, that they'll give her 3 promises, like they won't front door, back door her. They will take her to final 3, and if either of them is in final 3 with her and someone else, like because one of them got evicted, they will take her to final 2. They promised her that, so she is keeping Liz. as soon as she left the room, they're both like, yeah, we're not keeping that promise. They're ready to throw Vanessa out the door. Liz and Julia decided together that it would be better for Liz to stay because she could fight harder and she actually could win, whereas they agree that Julia probably can only take second.
The twins definitely should be wanting Liz to stay.
And Johnny Mac and Steve are both playing the same way they were last week, where it's just make as few ripples as possible. If this is what they want, this is what we'll give them.
That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
It's stupid for Johnny Mac and Steve because obviously, at least for Steve, it's really stupid because now that he has been the one to take the swing and sending one of the twins out, he's their number one target. And it doesn't matter which one of them goes. So it's dumb for him. He should definitely want Liz out. And I think he does, but he's not going to try to fight for that. And obviously he doesn't have a vote, so...
well, how can you not... I mean, if you evict Liz, you have just split up two power couples. And there is no power couple left in the house. If you boot out Julia, you've split up one power couple, and you leave one power couple in the house. That is absurd. The strongest power. Yes, you're also leaving probably the third strongest competitor in the house.
Yep. Well, Liz, as far as in the games, I would call her second. She's won more competitions than Johnny Mac.
I would put competitor-wise Vanessa and Austin right up there.
Really?
I would say Vanessa. I would say
won more than Austin.
Austin has thrown a few comps. He threw a comp to Johnny Mac, the dice roll game. Do you remember that? I remember that specifically. And he's won at least a couple of vetoes, hasn't he? Or am I misremembering that?
Not that I recall.
Perhaps I'm misremembering that.
This is his first time on the block.
I knew this was his first time on the block. Huh.
I don't remember him winning a veto before this one.
Well, maybe Liz is second behind Vanessa then. But would you have put Vanessa first?
Yes.
Okay.
I would have said Vanessa, Liz, Johnny Mac as the top three in the games.
Yeah, although Steve's pretty good at puzzle games, he's not good at any of the rest of them.
I think that's why Austin is still in the house, because he's a large, imposing guy with a big personality. He's still in the house because he's sucked at the comps.
Yeah.
I think.
I just always think of him as good at competitions because he is like a big dude, and there's a lot of the competitions that they are good at.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway.
Maybe he's shaved the ponytail beard. That's dragging him down.
I don't think so. I wish he would.
You were about to say something.
Yeah, I wish he would. I don't remember. So I don't know. We'll see. As it stands, Julia's going to be evicted tomorrow. We'll see if that flips again today or not. I
would be shocked if it doesn't. Like, they're too smart to not see it. I mean, don't get me wrong.
They threw out Meg.
They've done some really stupid stuff up to this point, but that is so obvious. Like, that's got to be the most obvious one there is. Two power couples versus one power couple?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that right there is enough. I assume since you haven't had time for such frivolity this week, you may not have heard anything of exit interviews from Meg and James, wherein they both strongly indicated that Austin is playing the best game in the house.
I'm not surprised that is their viewpoint from in the house at all.
Really?
And it's funny you mention that because I've kind of sat around thinking about, what would be going through their minds, not seeing anything CBS edited, really just trying to make sense of what they've done and trying to figure out why they've done the things they've done. And that's one of the things that crossed my mind is that I bet they're looking at Austin like he's playing this brilliant game, and he's got 2 votes. It's down to this many people, and he's got 2 sure votes at any given time that are going to go however he wants them to go. I mean, that's got to look pretty brilliant from in there.
Yep.
I mean, he's not looking too shabby from out here either. I didn't say you gotta like him, but I mean, to some extent, he's created a pretty cushy bed for himself.
So, here's a couple of questions. So we have what we as viewers perceive to be probably the best gamer, Vanessa.
Yes.
And then we have the viewer's favorite, Johnny Mac.
Yes.
As the jurors are leaving and we're hearing their assessments of the games, is it possible for either Vanessa or Johnny Mac to win this game? And who do they win against?
I think Vanessa wins against anyone.
Really? Okay. Does she win against Austin?
Yes. I think Austin would get the votes, the jury votes of both Liz and Julia. Austin, Liz, and Julia is like that's a 3-ring circus that's always going to vote for each other. But outside of those 3, everybody else is not wearing blinders. So I think Vanessa, it seems like every year people talk about, oh, this person's got so much blood on their hands, nobody in the jury will ever vote for them. And then the jury sits there and says, well, I mean, obviously this person played the best game. They got me out of the house. I'll vote for them. You know, it seems like it normally plays out to where just because you have blood on your hands, you don't lose jury votes, even if somebody is angry with you. Remember, Captain America voted for Dan to win. People tend to think logically rather than vindictively most of the time, not all the time, in the jury. So yeah, I think
in recent seasons especially.
Yes, not so much earlier on. I think Vanessa wins against, if she's up against anyone of your favorite Ostwits, she's obviously gonna lose two votes, whichever of the 2 aren't up against her. But I think the rest of the House votes for her. And I think up against anybody, she's gonna come out on top one way or the other. Like, she would be the last person I would want to sit next to.
Can Johnny Mac win?
Johnny Mac, honestly, I think he probably stands the worst chance of beating anybody head to head.
I think if he could muster the wherewithal to give real speeches and real answers,
right,
I think he could beat anyone.
Really? I hope you're right.
Even Vanessa with the right speech and the right answers, I think he could beat. But we have thus far seen whenever he has to speechify, he gives a stupid speech, usually at least mildly amusing, but it's stupid. And if he does that, if he continues with that shtick, I don't think he's winning against anybody.
Right. I think from the inside gamer's perspective, the best shots at winning right now in a head-to-head vote would be either Vanessa, Austin, or Steve. I think Steve would stand a good chance of winning against anyone.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Because he's made some odd moves, but they've turned out after the fact to be pretty good moves for him, even if they didn't make sense at the time. And he didn't win things for a while, but he's won things when it was like really important for him to.
Yeah, he will be good at giving arguments, I think.
Yes, that's the other thing. He can give a very persuasive and coherent response to any question. Could probably knock it out of the park.
I could see Vanessa going either way. She might give really good arguments and really good questions, or she might just really irritate them. Because think about how irritating she is in the diary room as she's explaining what's going on. I mean, she could just really rub them the wrong way.
Oh,
and she
absolutely.
Could be dishonest. And if she starts trying to BS them and they know she's BSing them.
Well, what I could see her doing in a Final 2 scenario, giving her speech and answering her questions, would be laying out some of the most well thought out factually correct arguments you could ever think of, and they'll come across as narcissistic and I'm better than all of you, and yeah, like you just said, just irritating people and people deciding that they don't want her to win.
Yeah, somebody was making a really good point that part of what comes in when the jury's making their decision, especially when there's this many fans of the game on the jury, which they're not all fans, but there's going to be more fans than usual, is they know that the winner of their season is going to somewhat define their season, and when they see the season that their name is associated with,
Right.
they're going to want it to be a good winner, so that's going to be factored in too.
Right. But, and then also, define good winner. Is it the person that has tons of blood on their hands? Is it, is it the person who played the best social game? Everybody's got their different idea of a good winner, too.
According to Megan James, apparently it's Austin.
True. Yeah. But, and then you don't also know, everybody out the door behind them, what are they going to fill their heads with? If Liz or Julia leaves the house angry with Austin, what kind of information are they going to impart to the rest of the house to turn them against him? Tons of question marks left.
Yeah, if Vanessa winds up in jury house, if she doesn't make it to final 3 and she winds up in the jury house, she's going to have a huge sway on.
Oh, big time.
I mean, she's going to start telling a narrative of who she thinks should win, and that's going to have huge sway.
She's good enough at that with that group of people that I could see her deciding I want this person to win and then just making it happen.
Yeah, and I could see her wanting one of the Ostwits to win.
Yeah.
Because they're her people. I mean, I think she's really planning on running with them afterwards, and I could see her just lobbying for. And she's already been saying stuff to Austin about, if I win, I'll give you this money to gamble with, or stuff like that. She even got in trouble in Diary Room because she started breaking rules with that. So
really,
yeah, I really don't want to see one of the Ostwits win.
No, I don't either. Because I feel like they're where they are just because of other people's stupidity.
Yeah.
And I don't.
So as disappointing as. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
As disappointing as last Thursday's episode was, and as fun as it would have been to see them surprise evict Julia, we're getting the pendulum swing, and it's fun, and it's continuing this good season. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to see what happens Thursday night.
Well, we got lucky because super awful boring would have been anybody besides Steve or Johnny Mac winning the HOH. And it came down to those two, and that was perfect. So we got lucky this time around. In most seasons, you don't get that lucky at this point in the game. So it's something to be thankful for. Predictions for tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. Tomorrow's live eviction. Any predictions? Do you think you're convinced they've flipped to evict Julia? I have not done any online research, any game watching today at all. I have no idea. Is that what you're predicting, or do you think they're going to flip back to reality?
Yeah. I'm predicting that they evict Julia because they've all along, the whole house has said, you twins decide. You guys decide who you want us to vote out. And the three of them have firmly decided to boot Julia, and Austin, I think, will be able to keep the girls in that camp. And so I think Julia will go. And then I think Vanessa will throw the HOH. And that will be very interesting to see. I think there's a very good chance that Liz or Austin wins that HOH. And I think there's a very good chance that Vanessa is actually the next house guest to leave.
There's also the chance that the next HOH will be slanted or geared toward Johnny Mac winning. Because I think the last one was. And
get out your tinfoil hats.
Yeah, there's game manipulation. And I think CBS knows where their viewership is coming from, especially at this point in the game. They know who everybody's favorite is. And I think Johnny Mac is going to be our next HOH, and I think that I mean, obviously, depending on how veto goes, he would want to put out Liz or Austin. I don't know. I'm not too worried about next
Yeah.
week, regardless of who goes. It's just going to be really disappointing if they don't get Liz out the door, just because that is the worst case scenario for the Oz Twits to run away with the rest of the game.
Well, it'll be Liz 10 running away with the rest of the game.
Liz 10. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I doubt they both survive to the end. I'm just saying, 2 jury votes and 1 winner. Or a potential winner.
Yep.
So,
yep.
You've got to do something about that thing.
I forgot to turn it off before it started.
Every week. Turn it off. Are we done here? We ran well over our allotted time.
Yep.
Okay. I think they're gonna. I think they're putting Liz out tomorrow. I'm just gonna throw that on the table.
Okay.
I think Steve.
You're on the record.
Steve is too smart to let this one. I've said it before, and he's proven me wrong. I think this time I'm gonna be right about it. And last week you thought Julia was leaving. You were wrong. I think you're gonna be wrong 2 weeks in a row.
Okay.
Look for us on Facebook and on YouTube. We are Big Brother After Snark. Hashtag BB After Snark. You know the drill. Thank you for watching, everybody.